Hello and welcome. Well, I guess I don't need this. This is what I really look like, though you may be used to seeing me in the mask for class. Hello and welcome to Introduction to Digital Entertainment Technology, DET 210 at Abilene Christian University. This class is going to be a flipped class. What that means for you is that I will be recording all of my lectures so that you can view them through Canvas or YouTube. And in class we're going to be doing other activities. Now, in case somebody does come down with COVID or has other medical issues, we will be providing as much as we can through the Canvas system and make the virtual learning option available to you. So let's get started on what the Introduction to Digital Entertainment Technology class is going to include. So first of all, masks are going to be required during the class. That is a university and a state requirement. So please do remember to bring your mask to class every day. That'll be required of all classes on campus. And should you forget your mask on the way to class, please go ahead and come to class. We'll have spare masks here for you to wear during the class time. So what is the DET Introduction to Digital Entertainment course all about? Well, in this class we're going to introduce you to a lot of the software and concepts that are associated with digital entertainment. Now, digital entertainment here encompasses two areas. That includes cinematics and game design or development. We're also going to be in this class focused on creating your very first ePortfolio. ePortfolios are critical in our industry and showing what you are capable of creating in a project like this. I will be using project-based grading throughout the class. There will not be any tests. There might be a couple of quizzes over the reading, but for 99% of what we're going to be doing, well, 100% of what we're going to be doing, it is project-based grading, meaning that I've developed a rubric which will allow you to see clearly how the project will be graded and why you received the grade that you did. Now, what is cinematics? Cinematics is the use of game engines to create special effects or scenes or the entire story in film or television. It might be used to create a surround area for green screen. That's becoming more and more popular in a lot of science fiction or largely scaled areas inside of film or television. The reason why cinematics is taking such a huge hold of these industries is that with game engines we can quickly create and render entire scenes in a fraction of the amount of time that traditional animation or traditional filming can be done in. We dramatically reduce the amount of time. And here I've got a scene from The Heretic that was created using Unity game engine. Unity and Unreal are both leading the way in creating cinematics for storytelling, and that's an exciting area. There will be a class next spring in cinematics, and I think this is the prerequisite for that class. So you're in the right place. So game design is more focused, at least from the way we're going to be teaching this class, in the art of storytelling. Now, obviously that overlaps with the cinematics as well. But what is the story that's going to be told through your game? How are the characters developed? What are we trying to do with the action in our story? What makes it fun, which is ludology? How do we create a compelling story or a compelling game that people want to continue to play hour after hour and spend their hard-earned money for doing that right to play? For this class, we are going to be using Ed Catmull's Creativity Inc. The Creativity Inc. book is available through the bookstore, or you can get it on Amazon. Again, I'll include the link to it on Amazon in the description below. You can also get it through Libby, which is an app by Overdrive. The Libby app allows you to connect to your local library and be able to borrow it either as an ebook or a audiobook. So I first listened to it as an audiobook, and I was so impressed with what Ed does in the telling of the creation of Pixar and how it came to be that I thought this would be a great book to use for this class. I particularly like how he encapsulates managing creative people throughout the book very subtly and sometimes not so subtly. I think as a college student, it will be very valuable to you in learning to organize your projects and make them as effective as possible as we go to create our major projects throughout this class and beyond. So we do have a lab in the Digital Entertainment Technology department. It is in the College of Business, MBB, room 302, top floor. It has several VR stations in there, including an HTC Vive, Oculus Rift S, and we also have a Microsoft mixed reality headset as well. We have 5 high-end systems in there, including Mac and PC. It doesn't matter which one you're using for this course. Use whatever operating system and computer system that you are most comfortable with. I do recommend, as you work through the Digital Entertainment Technology degree, that you have some type of higher-end gaming system. The more RAM that you've got and the better the graphics card, the better. Typically, we start seeing real problems if you've got a 4-year-old computer system and are trying to do the senior level classes. We've seen more than one laptop just completely burn up at that point. So make sure you've got a good system. Getting one your sophomore or junior year is a really good idea to be successful as you work through this course. We also have inside the 302 lab a green wall for doing film and cinematics. If you saw the welcome video that was created, you saw some of the products that can be done with a green screen. We will be doing a green screen project as part of this class, so you do get to look forward to that. We also have lights and cameras available for you to be able to set the proper lighting and effects and be able to record that, though using your smartphone will probably be fine and more than adequate for what we're doing in this class. And finally, we do have a PlayStation developer station in the 302 lab as well, so that you can develop and tinker with your own console-based game system. So some of the software that is in the 302 lab and that you will be learning as you work through the Digital Entertainment Technology degree includes 3D modeling software. Most students like using Blender because it's free and it's actually very powerful. It is very competitive with industry standard, but we do teach the industry standard software for both 3D modeling and animation, and that is Autodesk Maya. Autodesk Maya can be downloaded for free with a 3-year license from students.autodesk.com. You can download that. It's both Mac and PC compatible, and that, as I said, is the industry standard for most of game design as well as animation. Usually it's the indie studios that tend to use Blender because, again, it's free, but the larger organizations use use Autodesk Maya. For texturing and drawing, throughout, most of you have already had the game textures class that was taught over the summer. That taught Photoshop and a little bit of Substance. We also have Illustrator and other Adobe products. We do focus on the Adobe products, which as a student here, you get for free. Other software that we're going to learn how to use as you work through the DET degree plan include the Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut. Most students go towards Premiere Pro because it's included for free as part of the Adobe package on our campus. And Adobe After Effects is nice for being able to do the special effects that you will be doing as you work through this degree program. Now again, this depends on whether you're going more cinematics or game design. Generally, those that are doing cinematics are going to need Premiere Pro and After Effects. Even if you're doing game design though, I encourage you to learn the basics of Premiere Pro. Frequently you will find yourself working on projects and you'll need to do some kind of a trailer or advertisement, and having some basic skills in that area is critical to being successful. And finally, for doing both cinematics and game design, we have the choice between using Unity and Unreal UDK. For Unity, we offer Unity certification as you go through the DET 260 class, which is game engines. You will cover both of those pieces of software in there. You will have the opportunity to gain Unity certification. We've got about a 98% pass rate on Unity certification, so it shouldn't be any problem for anybody in here as long as you focus on that. And Unreal, while Unreal does not offer any certification yet, we do focus on making sure that you have the basic skills to be able to use that engine. Right now, the industry is kind of split between the two, so it's your choice whether or not you want to use Unity or Unreal. We focus a little bit more on Unity just because of the certifications, but we also include almost as much Unreal coursework. So by the time you're finished with your degree here, you will have experience in both game engines. So we do have other software available as well. As I said, we teach animation classes, are focused on using Autodesk Maya. That's the 3D animation course. You could also use Blender for that, and it is a popular solution for doing that, but we do use the industry standard for Maya for being able to do the animation. For 2D animation, you have your choice between Toon Boom Harmony and Adobe Animate. Again, slight preference to Adobe Animate just because it's included as part of the Adobe Creative Cloud that you have free as a student. And then we've got in the 302 lab a copy of the Real Illusion Cartoon Animator and iClone software, as well as the Character Creator software, so that you can experiment with that and become familiar with it. That's a nice quick way to be able to create avatars or characters for your games and base animations that are going to be included with that character. So this semester, some of the events that are happening include the Giants of Industry. Traditionally, we have always gone to Dallas to go to Giants of Industry conference and taken a group of students to that conference. However, due to the pandemic that is happening this year, that conference has shifted online. We'll have more information about that in class later on. We're still waiting on details on what's going to be, how we're going to conduct the DET Club and DET Chapel, but we are planning on having those, and we'll have more information for you as soon as possible. Check the Discord channel or Canvas for announcements as to when those organizations will be meeting. What are we going to cover in DET 210? Well, some of the things that we're going to cover is storytelling. How do we do storytelling? And that includes character development, what's the organization of your story, and then we shift into storyboarding from that. How are we going to visually represent the elements of our story so that it can be effective? We're also going to take a small divergence into working with audio. What are the different types of audio systems that we can use? How are we effective? And primarily editing audio. How do we make good, solid audio that people can stand to listen to? You'll quickly find one of the impacts of going through a program like this is that we're going to run every single movie and game that you've ever enjoyed. Primarily because you're going to become very aware of how it was done in the industry, where a mistake was made, where something went wrong in editing, and those things are just going to become very glaring for you when those done. When you see that kind of error made, or if something could have been done better. That definitely plays into audio. If poor audio can quickly damage anything that you're listening to, so having high quality audio is a critical component to creating any kind of entertainment. We're also going to talk about character development, creating trailers, designing, lighting different types of scenes, both in real life and in game design. And then you will be doing a final major project, which I'll talk about more here shortly. So, in the entertainment industry, we have this convergence that is happening. It is bringing together TV, film, games, animation, storytelling, all into one glorious, huge convergence that is happening. Now, that plays into a lot of different fields. Now, you can choose as a digital entertainment specialist to specialize in a specific area, or you can be a more generalist and be able to apply your skills into a lot of different areas. That's going to be completely up to you. The divergence and availability of classes is going to be more towards being able to use a large variety of different tool sets to accomplish it. We want you to be able to be successful both as an indie or as a person that is working for a large AAA organization, whether that be film or game design. And we have graduates that are doing both. Not one person doing both, but people that have gone into both the film industry and people who have gone more game design and working at large organizations or AAAs or starting their own organizations to do these things. Some of the devices that are becoming available are really having an impact. You've probably seen the Oculus Quest. We have a number of those in our program. The Oculus Quest is pretty cool because it does allow you to be able to connect directly to your PC and use it as a tethered device, or you can disconnect and be able to use your Oculus Quest and have room size virtual reality type organization. So that's a lot of interesting things. They're doing really exciting things. Of course, HTC Vive has set the standard for years and years on game design. Augmented reality is quickly becoming a thing. Anybody play Pokemon Go? Have you experienced what it is to be inside that type of environment? It's the XR, AR, extended reality is a huge part of the reality that we're now in. Those of us that have a little more gray in our hair have been waiting on this to happen, and it is happening. So let's be excited about this. Of course, we also have 360 degree film happening. Immersive environments are occurring all over the place. Over the summer, I attended 4 different immersive conferences that you had to put on VR goggles to participate in, or you could. There was also a desktop connection as well. So with what's happening, the streaming video that's happening with Twitch and YouTube, we've got a huge convergence that has occurred in the entertainment industry. And those that are using these skills and recognize this convergence are the people that are going to be the most successful going forward. How are you going to succeed in DET 210? How are you going to succeed in DET 210? The way we have points set up in this class is that working with a group of students a few years ago, we just developed the DETxp, or experience, for how you're going to earn your grade in this class. So we've broken the grading system into 3 major parts. The first part is the storyline. Storyline has 800 points possible for the class. These are required course assignments. You have to do all of the assignments. You cannot skip them and hope to pass the class. This is 800 points, and they are required. You don't turn one of these in, you're not going to pass the class. Plain and simple. There are rubrics for each of these projects, including story development, working with audio, character development, working with a green screen. All of these things are available. And maybe I should have used a different graphic to represent this. We could have gone with Gandalf, you shall not pass. That might have been a little more appropriate, but we'll go with it. So, side quests, which is you can earn up to 700 points for, include projects that you are working on. As a DET major, there is no way we can possibly cover everything that you need to learn in the next 4 years. So you have to be working on your own side quests, your own projects that you're building. And we've seen a great deal of success of students that take advantage of this. Some go on to present at our local film fest or even larger film fests. They create movies or animations and submit that to those stories. We've regularly won or the film fest for our local things. We've also had a number of students that have gone on to create their own games while students here and publish them, even some to Steam. So you should be working on a project. Many of those projects that became Film Fest projects or published to Steam or itch.io or whatever organization you want to publish to started in this very class. So finding a group of people that have similar interests to you and starting to create those, this is your opportunity. You have a unique opportunity here as a college student. You are most likely being supported by someone, usually your parents, but someone is helping support you to get your college education. Use this time where you are being supported to start your own side business. One of the things that I always encourage students to do, especially as a digital entertainment technology major, is you've got to have side gigs happening. This industry tends to be an industry of gigs. While you may work for an organization for 2, 3, even 5 years, it's more common that it be shorter term of 18 months to 2 years for working on a project, and then you're moving on to the next project. Sometimes there's downtime between those projects. So you've got to be working on your own things, creating your own opportunities that can generate revenue for you in case there's a gap between one project ending and the next project starting up. So SideQuest is a great area for you to begin developing that. There's the Malcolm Gladwell talks about in one of his books, I believe it was Outliers, where he talks about the 10,000 hour rule. It takes approximately 10,000 hours to become an expert in something. Now, that doesn't mean that your skills aren't applicable before you reach that expert level. Well before that expert level, you have a skill set that is valuable, that can be used for gigs to be allow you to earn money from that skill. But you've got to be doing this actively as part of your educational experience. So generally, I always point out to students that, you're taking usually 15 hours of classes per semester. If you put in another 20 hours into what you're passionate about, building what it is that you're going to be an expert in. Well, if you put 20 hours over 50 weeks a year, we'll give you 2 weeks off for Christmas or vacation or something like that. Over 50 weeks, you've got 1,000 hours, right? 20 times 50. So 1,000 hours. So per year. Over the next 4 years, if you're applying that, you can have 4,000 hours. Now, before you think, well, that's nowhere close to being an expert, it's a great start. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book, talked about that 10,000 hours is where we see the true expert, the person that is playing in the New York Philharmonic or the Beethovens and the Bachs and the people that truly stand out as experts in something. And they talk about that at the 3,000 or 4,000 hour mark, that usually tends to be people who are teaching other people to play the violin or, play the piano, or teaching college classes, or doing a variety of things. So you don't have to reach that 10,000 hour point before your skills become a very valuable thing that you can be earning an income from. So on these side quests, these can be contributing towards your major boss project, which I'll talk about here in just a second. They could be a personal project that you're working on. They cannot be projects that you have submitted for another class. The only exception to that is you submitted it to another class and then redid the project because you weren't happy with it. You saw or learned from doing the project a better way of doing it and you redid it. Then the resubmission can be submitted for a side quest, but it cannot be what you submitted to another class. And just so you know, our campus is small. I know the other faculty on campus. We talk, we have lunch together, so don't be submitting something for somebody else. We know what's going on. We've been doing this for a while. Projects that are older than 3 months should also not be submitted to as a side quest. The idea is that you are building your skills, and if all you're doing is just showing me old stuff, then you're not building up your new skill set. I am adding the requirement that you must complete at least one Adobe certification by Thanksgiving. This is offered for free through the Adam Center, the Innovation Foundry. You can contact Amos at the Innovation Foundry, and he will work with you so that you can get your Adobe certification. I recommend starting with Photoshop. If you are not Photoshop certified, then that's a great place to start. If you are already Photoshop certified, and I know a few students have already begun working on this, then go on to Adobe Illustrator or Premiere Pro or After Effects or Animate. You learn the skills and gain the certification. You must get at least one certification by Thanksgiving. Have I made that clear? Adobe certified by Thanksgiving. 100 points. It's a class requirement. Do it. You can get started now. So your boss project. Now this is 500 points or 25% of your grade. So even if you've gotten a perfect score in the storyline and the side quests, that's only 1,500 points out of the 2,000 points for the class. That'll get you up to a C. If you want more than C, you need to impress me with a boss project. This should be a major personal project that you are putting a major amount of effort in. I'm talking somewhere around 100 hours over the course of this next semester. Yes, you're going to have to give up some weekends or some Friday nights. This is going to be a major effort. We're talking about somewhere around 7 to 8 hours per week working on this. It can be a team project, but I expect each member of that team to be putting in 7 to 10 hours per week on this project. And again, this is how you get published to Steam. This is how you win Film Fest, is you put those hours in, you gain those new skills, and you're producing things, creating things. That is a critical part to being successful in anything that we're doing. This boss project must be playable, at least, a level of it playable, or watchable version of your final. So the last thing that we are doing, the final project, finals day, we look at all these projects. So, and everybody in the class will see what you have created. Finally, you're going to be creating your ePortfolio. Now, the ePortfolio is a degree requirement. We're just going to get started in this class. I'm not expecting you to have a finalized ePortfolio. But to be admitted to the capstone course as part of the DET program, you must complete the ePortfolio. It must be a professional level ePortfolio before I'm going to admit you to that program. Now, we're going to offer you guidance. Professor Tanner and I will spend a lot of time working with you on developing your ePortfolio, but this needs to be a major amount of work that you need to put into it. If you don't, you will not pass. None shall pass if you do not have a good ePortfolio. You will not graduate from the DET program because you will not be admitted to DET 410, and without 410 you will not graduate with a DET degree. Most students like to use Wix or Weebly for creating their ePortfolio, though ArtStation is also becoming a very popular option if you're going more 3D modeling or texture design. This is designed to demonstrate your skills. There should be a really strong message as part of your ePortfolio on who you are and what it is that you are creating. So we'll work with you on this. I'll have more lectures later on creating your ePortfolio and what it should look like when you're done. I also expect you by the end of the semester to have a LinkedIn account, and you'll have to submit the URL to your LinkedIn account, and you will also need to participate in the College of Business's EDGE program, which we'll have more information about later on in the semester. What have I been doing? I try to lead by example. I'm not just a pretty face for you to listen to every single day. What I try to do on my projects is things that are going to help build up what it is we're doing as part of DET. Now, my personal area of expertise is in serious games or game-based learning. I like to create things that help people to be able to comprehend or learn material more quickly. And that goes back to being a former high school teacher and what's involved in where my research has always been oriented. So I'm working on a variety of projects. The first one is on the Pygmalion effect. How does an avatar or voice selection impact student engagement in a virtual or immersive environment? So what's involved in helping people to gain knowledge more quickly, and does the sound of my voice help you to learn better? Does the avatar that's representing you on the screen help you to learn better? And that's what that research is about. I hope to do a major portion of that research yet this semester, working with my research assistants. So we've also been working on a virtual reality chapel. After this last few months of COVID, I'm sure you're aware more than ever the need for people to be able to interact. And since we frequently cannot interact face-to-face or in person, that virtual reality cognitive embodiment, actually embodied cognition, allows us to experience that closeness without being necessarily physically in the same space. So the VR Chapel is designed to help people worship in a virtual reality, and we're experimenting with that. I'm also working with the cinematics and game engines. I'll be teaching a course on that in the spring. Can game engines augment animated storytelling? And the answer is yes, they can. How do we do that? And I'm actually working on some tutorials and a book on how to use cinematics in game engines. And finally, I've been working on a major project on creating multiplayer enrichment. What's the best way to do multiplayer? You've probably seen a few things in the news over the last 5 or 10 years or so, if not then definitely in the last 6 months, where organizations have been harvesting your personal information. So a lot of the multiplayer tools that are out there, I'm not saying all, but more than a few, are providing the multiplayer resources so that they can harvest player information. I'm very interested in privacy issues, and so I'm in the process of looking at the creation of open source multiplayer resources that can be run on your own server so that you can maintain privacy issues. And that's especially important if you're working on creating games or virtual environments that are going to be used by children. So very critical there. What's your story? What's the story that you want to tell? This is actually your first assignment. You need to go to Canvas now and look at that first assignment on creating what your story is. Now, to help you get started, I know you're already used to this from your ITC 110 class where I told a story. So I'm going to tell you a story to help get this flowing. So as I mentioned earlier in this discussion, I used to be a high school teacher. Well, middle school, high school. So, 25 years ago now, I was a middle school teacher in further north than we are now, and a little bit east. And I was teaching a 6th grade self-contained class in a private school. One day we had a benefactor that loved to ice skate, and it was chilly out, and there was a ice skating rink about 45 minutes from where the school was. So he arranged for the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade classes. I was the 6th grade teacher. It was a smaller school. It was a self-contained one class of 6th grade. And we were going to, he rented the ice skating rink and rented buses, and we took the students. Now, we couldn't fit all of the students on the bus. The 4th and 5th grade used up the bus. So I used one of the church vans to drive the 6th grade class, which they were my students, so that made a lot of sense. And we went ice skating. Spent several hours ice skating, and it became time to head back. So on the way back, we were in the van, and suddenly I noticed there were police cars all around this van. Now, again, this was a church van, Christian school van that I was driving. It said promptly on the side of it that it was a Christian school that we were part of. So these police surround the van and flash their lights, so I pulled over, and the police walked up, and basically the van was surrounded by 3 or 4 policemen, and one of them walked up to the driver's side where I was at and said, "Sir, could you please step out of the van?" And I said, "Well, of course," and stepped out, and he says, "Sir, do you have a gun?" Like, "No, I generally do not carry a gun when I'm teaching my 6th grade class." He says, "Well, sir, do you understand that there was a message that you were kidnapping these children?" And, well, after my heart started beating again, I said, "What? Where did this story of that I was kidnapping these children?" And at this time, the police are starting to laugh, and they said, "You're obviously a teacher." "Yes, these are my students. I'm teaching them." "So, did you happen to read the kidnapping of Little Red Chief this year?" And it's like, "Yes, actually, that was on the curriculum this year." Says, "Well, it seems that a group of at least one of your students had written a note that said, 'Help, we're being kidnapped, and he has a gun.'" And as we were pulling out of the town that the ice rink was in, we were stopped at a traffic light. One of the students threw that note outside the window and was picked up by a little old lady in the town that was crossing the street, and read that I was kidnapping these children and I had a gun. So she flagged the police, and they quickly surrounded the van, and we quickly resolved the problem that I was not kidnapping the students. The police found it very humorous. I found it less humorous at the time. Looking back now, yeah, it might be a little humorous. But the this van was a very quiet trip for the remainder of the 30 minutes back to school that day. You might be curious what the punishment was for those students. We decided that since they had caused a mess and they needed to clean it up, that they would help clean the school for half an hour for the next 2 weeks after school. So that was their punishment. That was one of my stories. We could easily animate that. We could usually put that into a game engine, save the kidnapped children, or who's really being kidnapped here. There's a lot of different ways we could go with this, but it creates a story. So what is your story? What's the story that you want to tell, either through film, animation, game design? What's the story that you want to tell? So we're going to get into that storytelling in the next lecture. What's involved? How do we create that? And we'll go forward from there. I'm glad to have you as part of the class, and look forward to seeing everybody as much as we can face to face, or at least this much of the face, and we'll have a great time. Have a good day.